Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where yesterday was a bit of a tough day for fans as we found ourselves divided over the new Star Wars trailer for Rogue One. It got a little contentious. Disney was even deleting comments over on the official upload, but I'm happy to report that today we have a lot of happy fan things to discuss, as many of our dreams look to be coming true. In fact, so much awesome fan-friendly stuff is happening, I don't even have room to discuss all of it. So let me just touch on briefly the fact that it's been announced that Christopher McQuarrie is not only directing Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 6 after the fabulous Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation, but it looks like he will also be doing Edge of Tomorrow 2. That's right, we're getting a sequel. That's very exciting news. Wonderful for Emily Blunt, although calls into question as to whether or not she will therefore be available for Captain Marvel. Also, though, Doug Liman is not. It's interesting that Doug Liman won't be returning to Edge of Tomorrow, but that's likely because, of course, he's booked for Gambit. So, very interesting development indeed. And that's not even one of the stories for today. So let's get on to our actual stories. Now, the first one delighted me, and actually, BTT intern Will Theed, who's currently in London, appropriately interning, studying abroad, actually. Will Theed very happily tweeted me or retweeted me something from Taron Egerton, and that was a tease that Harry Hart lives. It says reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, and then it has Harry's the Kingsman trademark glasses with one of the lenses missing, of course, where Harry was shot. You would think that would kill him, but apparently they've thought of a way. I think it's an absolutely fantastic idea. I think Eggsy will have a lot of explaining to do because he, of course, has been living in Harry's house. But I think that, you really can't imagine a Kingsman sequel without Colin Firth. He was such a wonderful part of the movie. Seeing Colin Firth as not only an action star, but a successful one was absolutely fabulous, and I'm so glad they found a way to keep him involved. Now, I saw some of you say, shouldn't they have kept this a secret? Wouldn't it have been great to surprise audiences? Well, if he has a large role, as I suspect he will, or else why bring him back? Maybe actually, come to think of it, maybe he's been, brought back by our villain, Julianne Moore. Resuscitation for evil, nefarious purposes certainly falls within the purview of the spy genre. But anyway, if he's going to have any decent sized role in the movie whatsoever, he's going to show up when they're filming on location. So I think that's one of the reasons that they've given it away. They can certainly keep the circumstances of his return a secret, but I think that Colin Firth is going to, you can't keep something like that a secret. If it's just a cameo, you can, but I think something that's going to be a major involvement, if you're going to be shooting in public, when they shoot these sci-fi and superhero movies sometimes entirely on a set, they can afford to keep things a secret. But like, for instance, Star Wars, to some degree, very little location shooting there. And when they do shoot on location, we get, information, right? Of course, no one can forget all the reports about Michael Skellig Island and who was in the vicinity. So I'm happy that Harry's coming back. I can understand them not keeping a secret, and it's the best Kingsman news, or Kingsman sequel news, I think we've heard yet. I'm very, very excited. All right, so that's the first story of the day, and I'm curious how you feel about it. And are you like, yes, I'm so glad that Colin Firth is coming back? Or are you like, Taron Egerton was supposed to take over. How can he assume the mantle if, his predecessor won't leave? All right, so the second story of the day is that Charlize Theron has landed a fantastic role. So many of us liked her as Furiosa in Mad Max Fury Road. She did a fantastic job there. She's in the Huntsman movie, which some of you have already seen because it's opened overseas way early. It doesn't open here in the United States until the end of the month, and I've asked, but there are no press screenings until, right before the release date. So anyway, Charlize Theron, a lot of us want to see her do more blockbusters, right? More action blockbusters, because she was just so darn good. She's come a long way from Aeon Flux, wouldn't you say? But anyway, she signed yesterday on for Fast 8, the 8th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise. Now, at first I got a little excited because I saw one report just saying she will play a new character. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to replace Paul Walker with a female a character, Charlize Theron, because she kind of has a similar look to him. And I thought that would be really wonderful because, Gal Gadot's no longer on the team, so they really only have one woman, and that's Michelle Rodriguez. Jordana Brewster really doesn't operate with the team, and she's probably going to leave now that Paul Walker has left. Although I think she'd have to, because how would they justify her being there, even though she is Vin Diesel's character's sister, Dom's sister, it's just a little sticky. But I think they do have to stop this idea of there only being one woman in a situation. We'll talk about this more next week in depth, but we're seeing that, I think that only one woman in a large group doesn't make any sense. So I would love to see Charlize Theron be a part of Dom's crew. However, I saw another report that said she's playing the villain. Now, I don't know if that was the assumption on that report's behalf, because it had been reported in the past she would be playing the villain. I believe that came from USA Today, but yeah, Deadline just said a new character. So we'll see who she ends up playing. She's a wonderful villain, as we've seen in the Snow White movies, the Huntsman movies, but she's also a fantastic hero, and I would like to see her just join Dom's team outright and get some more women on there. I think Michelle Rodriguez and Charlize Theron is a great combination. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day, yes, on Wednesday, I reviewed the new Black Panther comic, but there was another comic that I really wanted to pay close attention to, and that was Poe Dameron #1, because I was very curious to see what they would do with the character. And sure enough, I thought it was very interesting. They did not give him any hint of a romantic interest or any romance at all. Now, that in and of itself is pretty extraordinary. Usually they have romantic subplots in comics, right? There's always a love interest. And especially, I would think, for a character like Poe Dameron, who not only seems to be setting up to be the new Han Solo, but is quite dashing, right? I mean, look at his hair alone. And also, everybody talks about Poe Dameron, they're always like, he's so good looking. Like, that's like very much how, the first thing that people mention when talking about him, right? So I thought it was interesting that for his comic, they did not define his sexuality, which I think is a very strong choice. And even more so in the backup story, like a nice little cartoon animated one, they did have a romantic story between two, new secondary characters. It was a really cute little sweet story with BB-8, but they clearly, they had romance on the brain, and they wanted to have that represented in the comic, but they didn't want to do anything with Poe Dameron. Now, I'm not saying they're definitely going to make the character gay, but I think it's interesting that they're continuing to keep that door open. And I'll be very interested to see where they take Oscar Isaac's Poe Dameron. I've seen a couple of hints from him when I was doing my research for that video I did recently about gay or not with certain characters that are in movies today. And I think that Oscar Isaac has hinted at a potential situation where Poe Dameron is gay himself in his interviews. So we'll see what they do with the character. I think it would be really great, and I also like it because Poe Dameron is not being defined by his sexuality. He's just a great character who happens to be gay, and I think that's going to be the first step to making gay characters in blockbusters not just be, punchlines or, sassy secondary characters. So I would think that would be wonderful. And we talked a lot, this is, if Star Wars wants to do diversity, that's wonderful, and that's why I think people weren't happy with the way Rogue One came out yesterday, because it was just the same. It was like basically another Daisy Ridley, almost exactly. And as many people said, there's only one female character again. It would be nice maybe if we got a different ethnicity or an alien. Even if it was going to be a woman, that would have made it a little bit better. And also, I think, it's Poe Dameron would be great because you'd be doing so. I just think, if you're going to try and promote diversity, there's so much more that you can do. So I'm excited about this, and I think it's very telling indeed that Disney has left this character undefined still in that regard. So I'm curious, what do you think? Have you read Poe Dameron #1? The comic was okay. I think Poe Dameron's a bit of a dry character. He's very leading man, very heroic, but I think in an effort not to define him, I think he's still a bit of a mystery, which I think was also what makes him so compelling, right? You're like, I want to get to know him better. What makes Poe Dameron tick? And so I'll be curious to see who gets to do that. Will it be the comic or will it be the movies? Very interested to see what happens with him in episode 8. All right, so let's move on to the viewer question, which is also Star Wars related. I really want to kind of nip this in the bud because I saw a number of people yesterday saying, maybe Felicity Jones's character looks so much like Daisy Ridley because she's playing Rey's mother. So this is totally incorrect, but let me read the question. It comes from Matthias Gregory, frequent BTT viewer. And Matthias says, smiley face ad infinitum. I've heard you like those. That was really adorable. Frequent viewer Matthias from London here. I know you, Matthias. Okay, so he says, Grace, I've been thinking, could this character be Ray's mother? English, similar build, etc.? Do you think the reason it's been so difficult to discern Ray's familial origins are simply because largely we haven't seen it yet? It wouldn't be such a stretch to imagine Luke meeting this Rogue One lead after the events of Return of the Jedi, or some such, because this movie does take place after that. Yes, I think, it's not out of the realm of possibility, just if you look at it, just face blank, but that's not the situation because, well, for two reasons. First off, I think it's just too convenient, right? I mean, I think people are sick and tired of this always being, everybody being connected, right? I just think it makes no sense. But I also think that the reason this is 110% not the case is because Kathleen Kennedy has said the whole point of the spin-offs is that they are not about the Skywalker clan. So if Felicity Jones is playing Rey's mother, then there is no way that she is Luke Skywalker's daughter. It's not possible. Because Kathleen Kennedy made it very clear, and she said, what's the difference between the episodes and the spin-offs? The episodes are about the Skywalker family. The spin-offs explore other parts of the universe that are not involved with the Skywalker family. So that's very crucial. I mean, that was a definitive statement from Kathleen Kennedy. I also think if they do tie into the Skywalker family, then the spin-offs become convoluted and not different enough to not oversaturate the fan base with the story of the Skywalkers. So to me, this is like when people were saying, I don't like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, so I'm going to latch on to this idea that he's not Lex Luthor, that the Lex Luthor father, that they reference is the actual Lex Luthor, and this is just some whiny son that we're going to get rid of and bring in the actual Lex Luthor. That was a very popular fan theory, but was just wishful thinking. And I honestly think that people have come up with this Rey's mother idea to try and soften the negative reaction to Felicity Jones's character, being like, yeah, it's the same thing as always, but that's because it's Rey's mom. It's just purely wishful thinking and trying to come up with a way to, silence the I wouldn't say anger, at least not yet, but the disappointment in this reveal that it's not a teen movie, it's another petite brunette who is a badass. Or Mary Sue, as we've been saying. But yeah, I don't think that theory holds any water, largely because of what Kathleen Kennedy said. So I don't think it's true, and I think if you want to still defend the Felicity Jones character, that's great. But I think that this has been removed from contention. All right, so thank you for your question, Matthias. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and the viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.